that in order to practice bhakti, it is not required that you walk away from home and that you walk away from society. And this is a very clearly, illuminated point in the practice of bhakti. It's not based on renunciation. When you come to the Bhagavad, you see the Bhagavad Gita was a response to the teachings of the Upanishads, which emphasized renunciation, right? It's the forms and the relationships of the material realm that keep us bound. Walk away from them. In the path of bhakti, as was taught in the Bhagavad Gita, is saying you don't need to renounce them. You need to reorient how you see them. You can stay within your family, you can stay within your society, you can stay within your workplace and so on, but you need to reorient how you see them. And that, in a sense, means you renounce them internally. You let go of a certain possessiveness that you had in relation to your family, in relation to your job, in relation to your society, right? This is my job, this is my family, these are my kids, this is my money, this is my home. You don't need to leave the home and leave the family and leave the society, but you do need to reorient how you relate to it, how you see yourself in relation to it. And that, in a sense, you could call that an internal renunciation, but not the external renunciation. And so when you write that in many talks with devotees, I've heard them suggest to leave my wife and daughters behind if they do not support my following the bhakti path, this suggestion has been made so frequently and lightheartedly that I found it alarming. I also find that alarming, Andreas. I do.
I find it alarming too.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Come on!
Live from Gothenburg, Sweden, this is Wisdom of the Sages, the daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. This is episode 1572, and today is Sunday, April 6, 2025. Welcome to the show. Happy Ram Navami. It is the 9th day of the moon, I think it is. The Navami is like the 9th. There's some different parts of India call it Nomi or Navami.
Yeah, I don't know why they say Nomi.
I think one is Hindi and one is Sanskrit. I'm not positive, but I think it's something like that. But it's Ram's appearance day. Huge festival. Huge time to remember Lord Ram. I'm here live at Gothenburg. You can see Sophie Mo in the back. I just wanted her to peek her face, and now I'm going to make her disappear. Goodbye, Sophie. Sophie Moberg, our dedicated Swedish Zoomer, and she's at the yoga games here. It's a big yoga festival in a nice hotel, and it's going good.
They call it the yoga games?
They call it the yoga games. It's just sort of
It's just like a conference?
It's like the Yoga Journal conference they used to have in America.
I see. Do they have a competition, actually?
No, it's not like that at all. It's not like the yoga games. Go, Raghunath, handstand. It's not that at all. It's just like a bunch of yoga classes in a fancy hotel. Really nice people setting it up. Yeah, I've had a great time. And it winds up today. And
you look like you're set for the games because you wear like a sweatsuit now. Like this is.
I know. They used to give me a yoga
thing.
games tracksuit, but they don't make them anymore. I like that. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that I led a kirtan last night. Was that okay? Do you think? Sophie said okay. Mara, what do you think?
Yeah, it was great.
Mara says okay. It's nice. I had a mridanga player, a nice devotee, Acharya from Latvia, who was visiting. He played mridanga. Another nice devotee from Ukraine played cartels. And my old friend Daniel, who played in Shelter for a while, he played bass. And we had a nice little kirtan party and chanted the holy name.
All right.
Sometimes yoga can really sort of like pull out God. Like they sort of somehow create, it's almost like one of those sugar-free Cokes. It's like Coca-Cola, but there's no sugar in it. It's like, how are you doing that? She was like, yoga minus spirit. And sometimes when you go to a yoga class or yoga festival, it can be like that, Coke Zero. But once you throw kirtan in the mix, it becomes sweet. And everybody was dancing and everybody was chanting. It was great.
Good.
Yeah, I feel like my mission here is done.
All right.
And so we're probably going to miss the Ram festival at the temple today because I have class later. And yeah, but we have I got to chant about Ram today in class, and because of that, I got to have a nice, my own personal appreciation meditation, and feel like I was leading that class in service of Lord Ram today.
Nice. Good, Raghunath. Good.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'll get to go celebrate at the Bhakti Center this afternoon.
Nice.
Hmm.
These holidays are great because they just enforce what we're already doing. And we have I grew up with Christmas and Easter, and then there's of course that evil Halloween one, which was fun. But all these holy days in the Vedic count, there's so many holy days. It's like, when do you get a day off from the holy days? We don't even follow all of them. We can't. I mean, in Hinduism, they're worshiping every different new moon, full moon, so many holidays. But the interesting thing is, it's just to bring your consciousness back to spirit. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And we're already practicing that on a regular basis. But because people tend to get lazy, and some people tend to be irreligious, or they're sort of religious, you have a holy day in place. And you can see how the system is meant just to bring the consciousness higher and higher. And that's why there are holy days like this. It's for our benefit. I was looking at a Greek Orthodox calendar of holy days, slightly different than the regular Catholic calendar. The Greek Orthodox, there's so many holy days, so many fast days, and you could see how, there's so many fasting days, and a lot of the days you're vegetarian, the fasting days. So it's the same principle. That's the job of the Brahmins, is to lift our consciousness higher.
Design different ways to keep the focus.
Keep the focus. It's so easy to go off track. The material world has so many wonderful, attractive opportunities to drive off a ledge. It is your opportunity to drive right off a cliff.
All right, Raghunath. You look like you're drinking something out of like the kind of glass that you.
It is. It looks like a vodka glass or something, and I'm drinking some type of brandy or something. It's a nice glass.
Okay.
Makes me feel like, but it's just some broth.
All right.
So
All right, should we just jump right into the
Q&A
then?
Yeah, we have some questions here. Oh my God, it's from Andreas Daters.
But first, we do have Mara with announcements, right?
Oh, Mara.
I was sticking my little head in here.
Her little nose.
How are you feeling? Are your health together, Mara? You doing okay?
I'm feeling good. I've been a little sore from jumping right back into 3 hours of yoga a day that I'm
wow.
not fit for, but it feels good.
Every time Raghunath drinks out of that glass, it's like it's like he's in Vegas or something, like that Dino over there.
It's got that vibe. Sign up now for our next session of Sage Groups. The registration's open. So session 10 runs April 21st through June 29th. And registration for that session started yesterday morning. So you can go to wisdomofthesages.com and click on Sage Groups to sign up and learn more.
All right.
And then also tomorrow's show will be at 6 a.m. Eastern time again.
Like today.
All right. Sorry for people who. Oh wait, it's Monday. That's normal time.
Yeah. It's been bouncing between that and 7.
I got a crazy day tomorrow. I'm just going to put that out there.
All right. Thank you for putting that out there, Raghunath. You ready?
I just want people to appreciate me.
Yeah.
It's just like because the band is showing up tomorrow. The yoga games is over. The tour starts, and the band needs to rehearse. So we're going to the club early to work on songs. We're playing
you're the
every.
singer. You don't have to do that.
I do, because there's certain songs on the mantra record. It's the 30th anniversary of our mantra record.
Time.
And not just been a long time, but there's certain songs we never played. When you put out an album, you don't necessarily play every song from that album. So I have to go over the lyrics with the songs, with the band, with the backup vocals. And then there's a book signing, and the devotees are going to come and give out prasad. It's going to be a big day.
Okay. Well, let's focus on this day right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I think it's time to focus now.
All right. So you can start by reading the first question, or I can if you prefer.
This is from Andreas from Cologne.
Okay.
I'm going to be in Cologne in a few days. Dear Kaustubha and Raghunath, you repeatedly claim the Bhakti path does not require renunciation, as the Ashtanga path does. but I find that claim to be slightly misleading,
Okay. You didn't even
if
say
not,
slightly. You added that in
if
there.
not untrue. From my own experience, the Bhakti path, as taught by Prabhupada and his disciples, does require quite a list of things you need to leave behind. The ideal is to stop eating stop meat eating, eggs, onions, garlic, etc., drinking alcohol, caffeine, etc., listening to worldly music, etc., reading books that are not related to Vedic philosophy, instead spending 2 hours a day chanting the Maha Mantra. This means that it will become increasingly difficult to spend time with family, friends, colleagues, basically your whole social environment, in case you have not been born into a Bhakti or Krishna conscious family. In many talks with devotees, I heard them suggest to leave my wife and daughters behind. I don't know what devotees you're hanging out with.
You're hanging out with
I-
devotees back in 1969.
1968, yeah.
But
If they
no,
do
I
not,
mean, people are different around the world, and there's
yeah.
different communities with different cultures.
It's true. In Bhakti, you really have to find your tribe.
Yeah.
Sophie, you in our tribe? Yeah, see, she's from Sweden. She's in our tribe.
Did we ever
Yeah.
tell Sophie to leave her family?
Sophie's got kids. She's got a husband, but she's the only like Bhakti pillar in the family. I never once said drop him, drop those kids off at school, and never drive back. Yeah, it's not the anyway. This suggestion has been made so frequently and lightheartedly that I find it alarming, and it made me finally
find that
stop listening to your podcast.
No, hold it. See, right here. I don't see
All right,
that.
hold it there. But he's writing to the podcast,
Yeah.
both of which I did daily. And following the 4 regular principles, I had to choose between leaving my wife and daughters or following the Bhakti path to the extent that I had been doing for more than 2 years. I figured if I can't do it properly, then better to leave it altogether. This is a good one. This is a great point he's bringing up. I think there's a huge amount of positive aspects I find in ISKCON, that's the society's philosophy, the institution's philosophy, but I find it difficult to follow if one does not want to leave their life behind. Which one led before encountering Krishna? To me, it seems it will end up exactly there, renunciation of the social life you have been living. I would be glad if you can disprove my point of view, because I can acknowledge that me leaving my sadhana might have had to do with my over-ambition, feeling of guilt, or maybe talking to devotees that did not encourage me on the path. Thank you very much. I love this question.
It's a very good question.
Very, very good question.
Yes.
The first thing is really interesting because he's mentioning Bhakti as opposed to the Ashtanga Yoga program. Generally, when people throw the word out, Ashtanga Yoga program, they're talking about Ashtanga Yoga as taught by Pattabhi Jois, which means, going to 2 hours of yoga in the morning. It's a regimented system. That's not what the Vedic teachings teach as Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a whole practice where you are leaving everything behind and going into deep renunciation. In that sense, Bhakti has much more of a family, social, and mixing with the world. As a matter of fact, there's been Bhakti yogis who are kings and Bhakti yogis who run businesses. I have friends that run businesses that are Bhakti yogis, friends that are family, people that are. Now, I understand like there's always a balance between some ideal and what is real. And I think that should be understood. And there's always fanatics in any tradition as well. But you have to also have your own governance of what you feel to be right and not fall into that very dangerous path as if I can't do it perfectly as written per line, I'm not doing it at all. I think it's important for people to start to reframe their duties in this world as spiritual if it's bringing you on your spiritual path. It's not like my children, are all their only interest is pure devotional service. And I was married to a woman who at one point was sort of interested in Krishna, then later became uninterested, then sort of interested. So I was very, focused on my spiritual path. So I really think the thing is we have to start worrying about ourselves. When we worry about ourselves, everything will get taken care of. And having a household is different than being a monk. It's even different than Kaustubha's position as a husband with no children. And it's different than a husband who's married to someone who's not Kaustubha's wife is like a saint. We aren't necessarily going to marry a saint. Our wife or husband didn't necessarily sign up for sainthood. So we have to understand that, listen, there has to be some adjustment, and that's okay. The car doesn't have to go 100 miles per hour as long as it's moving forward. And what can happen is you hear these people preaching some super high ideal, and oftentimes they can't even keep that ideal themselves. Or oftentimes there's a whole secret life going on because that ideal is so high. I think it's best to try to figure out what you can do and how you can move forward and how to be there for your family, love your family. There is a very, very high bar in Vedic culture, and that's basically because our culture has lowered the bar so tremendously. So when we say you don't have to give up things, I don't think that's actually true. But you have to add some very positive things to your life. Like, for example, you don't have to be a vegetarian. But then it's not going to help you on your path. You don't have to give up alcohol. It's just like you don't have to drive in a race, a racing car that has, you can drive it with flat tires. It's just not going to help you in your destination. So there has to be some discipline in any type of practice. Even if you're learning how to play the cello, there has to be some discipline there. But at the same time, if you also want to play the cello and be on the soccer team and be on the gymnastics team, you have to find how to balance that. Sometimes a person in high school is really good at football, but they're flunking out of school. And the teacher says, listen, if you want to stay on the team, you got to get good grades. You at least have to get C grades. There has to be some balance. So I think it's important to balance what is your spouse's needs, what are your children's needs, and how can I go forward? And I can say, for me, that was not an easy task. And guess what? Krishna is a real person. Krishna is not a law book. Krishna is a real person that reciprocates and understands your intention and your desire. And that's great news. Especially, it was great news for me. I feel like Krishna, even though sometimes in my duties in this world, I had to put Krishna to the back burner. I had to reframe what spiritual life meant for me. Just taking my kids to where they had to go and doing what I had to, responsibilities to my spouse, and making enough money, and sometimes working extra hard, and sometimes missing chanting my 16 rounds. I had to do it just to keep my life together. And you know what? As long as you're moving forward, and I truthfully, in my heart of heart, I never feel like Krishna forgot me. And I think there's always going to be a tension, and that's okay, between what's ideal and what's real. And a king is going to have a different dharma than a businessman. There's different dharma. If you are living a very simply renounced life, you have different responsibilities. And if you have a life where you have a huge thing you're managing and a huge family you're managing, you're going to have different dharmas in this world. So I think you're doing good, and I think you shouldn't second think yourself. And I don't think you should hang out with people who say such adharmic things like throw away your family. It's ridiculous. You'll hear these heavy statements sometimes, but there's certain people that would speak those things to me. Yeah, I know there's some value in bhakti. So I'd be like, you know what? these people aren't inspiring me on my spiritual path. So truthfully, part of my spiritual life is not listening to these people and following people that I can be inspired by. Because if the goal is to move forward, then I need people in my life that are going to fuel that. Now, that's at a certain season of my life, and you're at a season where you're married with kids. There may be a season where that same instruction will be very, very valuable. Suppose you're dying. You have to get to a point where you understand these aren't my children. This isn't my spouse. This isn't my home. Right? Because they're speaking in absolutes, and monks tend to speak in absolutes. But for most of us, this is a gradual path. But there will be a time, in one sense, where we just have to renounce everything except for God. But at your phase right now, I don't think you need to hear that. I don't think it's good advice. Kaustubha.
Yes, Raghunath. So, Andreas, thank you for sharing this question. And let's be real clear that it is a fact. You see, there are different paths that are laid out in the Vedic tradition and the yoga tradition, and some of them require what we call renunciation, and others don't. Right? So he mentioned the path of Ashtanga Yoga, and we could also mention the path of Jnana Yoga, where traditionally, to complete the path, you walk away from the world, you walk away from your family. The Bhakti path does not require that one do that at any stage. So in that sense, Bhakti does not require renunciation. But as you were saying, it's like anything requires giving up something. If you want to gain something, you always have to give up something. If you want a loaf of bread, you got to renounce the money that it costs to buy the bread. If you want to make a loaf of bread, you got to renounce the time that it requires to make the loaf of bread. To gain anything in life is going to require giving up something. So when you say that, I have to spend 2 hours a day chanting or any amount of time chanting, and I have to give up certain things, that's to gain anything, you have to give up something. In Bhakti it said, anukul yasya sankalpa, pratikul yasya varjanam, that we accept what's favorable for Bhakti, and we let go of what's unfavorable. And as you're saying, if I want to learn how to play violin, I have to accept what's favorable for it, and I have to let go of what's unfavorable for it. If I want to learn how to be a doctor, same thing. If I want to, whatever it is, requires accepting what's favorable and rejecting what's unfavorable. Our point is that on the path of Bhakti, you do not need to walk away from your family. You do not need to walk away from your home. You do not need to walk away from society, which other paths of yoga will demand that you do at some point in that path. So, and this point is very much, repeated. You read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you read Bhagavatam, you read Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it's, Grihe Tako, Vane Tako, Sada Hari Bahole Tako, that whether you're in the home, Grihe Tako, whether you're in the forest, as a renunciate, either way, just always chant the names of Krishna. It's a very important point. So that I want you to understand, that in order to practice bhakti, it is not required that you walk away from home and that you walk away from society. And this is a very clearly, illuminated point in the practice of bhakti. It's not based on renunciation. When you come to the Bhagavad, you see, the Bhagavad Gita was a response to the teachings of the Upanishads, which emphasized renunciation. Right? It's the forms and the relationships of the material realm that keep us bound. Walk away from them. In the path of bhakti, as was taught in the Bhagavad Gita, is saying you don't need to renounce them. You need to reorient how you see them. You can stay within your family. You can stay within your society. You can stay within your workplace and so on. But you need to reorient how you see them. And that, in a sense, means you renounce them internally. You let go of a certain possessiveness that you had in relation to your family, in relation to your job, in relation to your society, right? This is my job. This is my family. These are my kids. This is my money. This is my home. You don't need to leave the home and leave the family and leave the society, but you do need to reorient how you relate to it, how you see yourself in relation to it. And that, in a sense, you could call that an internal renunciation. but not the external renunciation. And so when you write that in many talks with devotees, I've heard them suggest to leave my wife and daughters behind if they do not support my following the bhakti path. This suggestion has been made so frequently and lightheartedly that I found it alarming. I also find that alarming, Andreas. I do.
I find it alarming too. I find it. It's beyond alarming. I find it horrible.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
it's one of the most
unless you're married to like some really crazy, some really
murderous.
bizarre. Yeah, that might be another. There might
And
be
your
some
children are murderous, but I highly doubt that.
when children murder, but I also find that alarming. But then I find there's a flaw in how you put this together, Andre. I submit humbly. You say you found that so alarming that it made you finally stop listening to the podcast and chanting. That's what there's a disconnect there, Andreas. Right? There's a disconnect. If this podcast wasn't telling you to leave your wife and family behind, then why not listen to this it's the people that were telling you that you should disconnect yourself from, right? And why give up chanting? No. You see, try to understand, try to zoom out, try to look at this tradition and see it for what it is. And don't let this is a tradition that's gone on for centuries and centuries and centuries. It's got such brilliant literature, great saints with incredible teachings to share. It's got architecture and arts and philosophy and music and drama. It's this massive, huge tradition that's withstood the test of time. And because some person comes along and misrepresents it, you reject it? No, reject the person that's misrepresenting it. But don't let some insignificant tiny person come along and turn you away from something that's huge and massive and eternal and beautiful.
Sure.
Try to keep that perspective in mind. So yes, the practice of bhakti is going to involve accepting certain things and rejecting other things. If you want to excel in anything, if not even excel, if you want anything, you're going to have to give up something. That's the way the world is. And if you want something so beautiful and precious and special as bhakti, yes, you're going to have to choose who you associate with and how. You're going to have to choose how you spend your time. Yeah, I do want to stop reading books and listening to worldly music. Yeah, because why? There's a reason why. And that renunciation in bhakti, that internal renunciation, it's something that comes from, I'm getting such a taste in this that I want to let go of that. This I'm getting such a charge from this that it makes me lose my taste for that. And that will develop in you naturally. So if there are people here that are misrepresenting this, that are asking you to do things that are potentially dangerous for yourself and for the well-being of others, please don't allow that to misrepresent what this tradition really is. And don't disconnect yourself from people that are trying to represent it more accurately. Don't stop listening to this podcast if it's telling you. Look, you brought on Sophie Moberg in the beginning of the show. She's there with you in Sweden. She's
Perfect example. Mara was just saying, I like Sophie Mo. She's got a whole family that aren't really into bhakti, but she's just into bhakti. She's just focused. She's not weird about it. She incorporates it in her life, and it's very normal for her. And we just had that appreciation just yesterday. Terrific time for this question.
Yeah. And it may be that your family becomes antagonistic towards it, that your family is then we have something that we need to work out, right? Then let's talk about how to deal with that special issue in your life. How it needs to be explained to them, how you need to represent it to them. We can talk about those nuances.
And even still, it most likely the answer is not to renounce them.
Yeah,
just
that's my point.
Renounce children. It's nonsense.
Yeah. So,
Kaustubha, I love this because it seems like Andreas should find people that do have families,
mm-hmm.
that inspire him in bhakti. That you got to
There you go.
find people that are inspired in bhakti, but have families, have households, have businesses, because it's important. Because sometimes I get it. It's hard when your guru or the person that mainly teaches you is either some renounced swami that doesn't understand what it's like to have a dog and a household and a yard and, go to the motor vehicles to register your car. Sometimes a swami can never quite understand the life we're going through with a household. And sometimes a new devotee is almost like a little child. They don't quite understand the bigger picture. You and me have been around this for a long time. So it's like a little child will say, let's run outside and jump in a puddle. Yeah, that sounds fun, but then your clothes are wet for the rest of the day, dum-dum. So the mother's going to say, no, we can't jump in the puddles. Don't jump in the puddles. Sometimes people who are new to bhakti, they'll take one of these phrases like renouncing the world, and that will be their go-to information. And we suffer like an epidemic in this world with perfectionism. And we want the perfect body and the perfect diet and the perfect career and the perfect partner. This progress, not perfection, is such a great phrase. We got to feel like how to move forward. And when you talk about chanting 16 rounds and following all these principles, it can so easily take people who are wrapped into perfection and be like, you know what? I've tried it. This is too high of a bar to jump. I'm going to just go back to whatever I want to do. And I wish people would see it's progress, not perfection, and incorporate that into their life a little bit more.
I think that Andreas touched on that when he said, because I can acknowledge that my leaving my sadhana might have had to do with my overambition, which is, I think, what you're speaking about, or feelings of guilt, which I both think are related to that.
Yeah, and we hate ourselves.
Yeah, don't let that drag you
I
down.
can't chant 16 rounds. I'm a bad person. No, you're not. You probably have a lot to do. You probably have a lot to do. You're probably taking care of your kids. You're probably being really responsible right now.
Or you're watching Netflix all day.
Or you're scrolling all day, and those are and you.
So then we work on it, yeah. Then we come up with you come up with a strategy that's going to work, that's going to help take you to the next step, and then once you've mastered that, we'll take it to the next step, yeah. And we should be clear that the renunciation, like of the sannyasi or something like that, in bhakti, we don't see that even as perfection. We see perfection as love for Krishna.
Sure,
right?
That's
and that may manifest as a renunciate, like a sannyasi, or it may manifest as a married person in a family. It's not the external circumstance; it's the love that we see as the goal. That's the perfection.
This is an important point, because once you get into a spiritual institution and you see a, quote, swami, or a person who has given up the world, so to speak, meaning you don't have a family, you don't have a wife, you make these vows of celibacy, we think this is the highest. It's not the highest. The highest is the renunciation of sense gratification, the renunciation of thinking this is my world to enjoy. And the person who has love of God sees this is Krishna's world. If the renunciate sees that, that's the highest. But a householder can also see that. Yeah. A teenager could see that. You could be at any state. A business person can see that. You can be at any position in your life and say that this isn't my world. I'm here to give and serve the center, not be the center. The goal is love of God. It's not just some external giving. So many people can renounce the world, so to speak, but in their mind have so many ideas, so many thoughts, and you might just do it for prestige. That's super common. We see that happen. Super common. We have to really learn how to make that heart adjustment. And only we will know if we're doing it for the right purposes. There's times in my life where my sadhana fell off, but I felt like, you know what, God, I'm doing everything I can in my life just to keep this boat moving down the canal. And I just feel like God understands. And I don't have to prove that to anybody except myself and God. I feel like I feel like I'm holding up the whole world. And I feel like it's going to work itself out. I just have to make it through this next phase.
You know, I got a nice quote here, Raghunath.
Tell me.
Well, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, text 3. So this is spoken by Brahma, right? Like the most intelligent person in the universe and the head of our sampradaya, right? The head of our lineage. And he says, those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions. So that means the word here is, the phrase here is stane stitaha, right? They're remaining where they are. They're remaining in their social position. They're remaining in their family life. They're remaining in their business life. They're remaining exactly in the position. This is directly in contrast to walking away and going out into the forest, right? So those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge. In other words, throw away the jnanic process where you walk away from the world and just analyze all your material desires. And with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to the descriptions of your personality and activities. In other words, I didn't walk away from the world. I just got into reading books about you and talking about your pastimes and reading Bhagavatam and reading Krishna book and all of that. They offer all respects to of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to those narrations. Right, I live for hearing about Krishna. Right, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees. They certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So there you go. I mean, you wanted me to disprove the theory. Here it's disproved, right? Here it is from the Bhagavatam itself, our highest authority. It's saying that those who remain exactly in their social position, in their family, in their job, in their social circles, that don't walk away from the world, but that become fully dedicated to hearing your narrations, to become absorbing their minds in hearing about Krishna, and they devote their body, their words, and their mind to it, that they conquer Krishna with that love, and they achieve the highest goal of yoga. So there it is. Keep the main thing. It sounds to me like the most important thing for you, Andres, is finding the right people that know how to help you in your situation and encourage you in your situation, rather than misunderstand how to apply bhakti in your situation.
Blow you out.
Okay.
And also, as hearing all these things, we should understand when we explain bhakti to people, we should say,
Gotta be
hey,
careful.
it's progress, not perfection. Let's see you make some progress. We have to encourage people with where they're at. And everybody's going to be at a different place. We want to encourage. We don't want to just show, here's this high bar. Let's see how many people we can intimidate. Come on.
All right.
We want to spread this philosophy. It's so rich. It's so wonderful. I just got interviewed for some book, a book on gurus. And the guy was saying, like, what do you do with all this, information? You're going into a yoga class and teaching all this, spiritual information, and everybody's like looking up to you to, about what to do and what to do with their life. And I said, yeah, you got to be able to give what people need. You got to become expert at giving people what they need, and don't give them too much where they're just like, this is crazy. So if you become expert at explaining this to somebody, and hopefully that me and Kaustubha we're training you in that by hearing from us. We want to see people move forward, take a step forward, even if it's a baby step forward.
There you go.
Because the material world is overwhelming, isn't it? It's just, it can be really overwhelming.
I just want to be real clear, though, too, that there's two things that you're addressing. When you're saying progress, not perfection, you're not saying that external renunciation is the perfection. You're just saying that you can't have someone say, you need to chant 16 rounds right now or you're failing. You're addressing that kind of thing. But you're not saying that, hey, maybe you can't walk away from your family right now, but you'll get there. Just like start by ignoring them a little bit more every day or something like that.
Oh, Krishna.
Right? I just want to be clear about that.
By myself? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Ready for the next question?
That's a good question, though.
It was a good question.
And I think
We got
it
another
needs
good
to be
question.
asked, and I think we need to speak like this, and I think people need to hear it like this.
All right.
All righty.
Next
This is
question.
from Aaron Eriskin, one of our regular listeners
Mhm.
from the UK. And it's via the Sage community platform. That's how he wrote it in.
All right.
When we are faced with material challenges, it is important to have faith and trust that Krishna has a plan for us.
Okay.
Yeah. How do we make sure that our trust in Krishna's plan does not develop into inertia or inaction? Pretty good question.
Okay.
It seems wrong to expect that our challenges are taken care of by Krishna without any action on our part. Thank you for everything you do and the knowledge and support you have given to us all over the years. P.S. Shout out to both of you for always getting my name correct during the morning greeting.
There you go.
Well, I guess people get it wrong a lot. You may be the first folks to do so, and I appreciate it. Okay. Aaron Eriskin. What do you got
Hope
to
you
say
just
about
did it
that,
right.
Mr. Kaustubha?
Well, I'm trying to understand the connection. I mean, yes, Krishna has a plan for us, and it's a plan for us to execute, right? And let's be clear. And that's all over Bhagavad Gita, right? The whole Bhagavad Gita is, in one sense, it's a comparative study of different spiritual paths, spoken for the purpose for Arjuna to pick up his bow and get action, get into action, right? And so, yes, we do have faith that Krishna has a plan for us. We do have faith that there's a path for us to walk. It may be unique path. It may be different for us. Just as we were speaking about in the last question, right? For some people, it may be to renounce family and walk away from things. It may be to live as a renunciate. And for other people, it may be to live within the family and care for the family and serve in other ways. So there is a plan for us. There's no, and you know what? It's not necessarily like there's just one plan too. It's sometimes like, okay, there's plan A and plan B, and either one can work, you know?
Sure.
And maybe there's a plan C as well. And so our job is to consulting, with the right text and the right people, that we can understand what is a valid plan, what is a plan that is in harmony with Krishna and all his energies, and what is a practical plan for us to move forward in our bhakti. And then we have to do exactly what you're describing here. Is then we have to take up the challenge. Then we have to put in the work. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never be attached to the results of the fruits of your activity, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Right? It's like this is the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. It's very clear. So I don't think there's any room. Perhaps some people might misinterpret Vedic teachings. I think, again, this probably stems from Upanishadic teachings, which are talking about renunciation, to leave everything behind. Bhagavad Gita took the knowledge of the Upanishads and the detachment of the Upanishads, but put it within the framework of being very active in this world, taking up your duties. And so that's fundamental. That's fundamental for us.
Yeah, it's I totally get him. I get where he's going with this. I always like to think Krishna has a plan, but I have to take a step forward. And then I find that when I do take that step forward, I will be directed even more. Or that direction will say, wrong step. Sometimes I'll hit walls. It is one of those serenity prayer moments, though. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So move forward. If this is your will, and you have to be very, very sincere in your prayer. I'm going to take a step forward. I'm hoping that this is your will. Please show me a sign. Please show me a loud sign that this is what you want for me. And then if I see that sign, I'll take another baby step forward, and I'll do it in deep prayer. I've been through this again and again in my own life, in different forks of the road. Even when we first got Super Soul Farm exists out of intense prayer. Is this what you want for me, Krishna? Please show me what you like. And even at a certain point during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, I almost lost the entire farm. I pray, Krishna, is this what you want me to do? You want me to give it? I can do it, Krishna. If that's what you want me to do, I'll move to a smaller place. Maybe this is for my ego. Maybe it's not. We have to be in constant contact with in prayer in God. Please give me some sign. Please speak through the devotees. Please speak through my teachers. Please show me a loud sign that this is what you want for me. And if we have that dialogue with God on a regular basis, I'm convinced your prayers will be answered. We have to open up a dialogue, and not just expect stuff to happen. Open up a dialogue with God. Invite God into your conversation and into your life like that, and talk to God like that. I find that works for me.
All right, Raghunath. What does God say to you?
God says, kill Kaustubha. God told me to kill you.
Raghunath.
Hare Krishna, I'm sorry. It's 6 a.m. Get out of here. The son of my dog. No.
Son of Sam over here.
Oh,
All
Krishna.
right. Yeah, I guess maybe the inertia that he's speaking about is that you said there's certain, you quoted that prayer, let me accept what I can't change and change what I can.
Courage to change the things I can't. Okay,
Yeah,
wait.
so
Can I do this, or should
the
am I
wisdom
being lazy,
and the
or is
wisdom
it
to know
inertia?
the difference. Yeah. So like there's certain things that we just accept, right? That, okay, maybe we become inert to certain things. We say, you know what? That's part of the world that I don't need to shift, but I won't get sidetracked by it because I want to be very active, in the right way, in where my energy is best invested. Okay.
I like you, Kaustubha.
All right. Another reason not to kill me. All right. You want to read the next one?
God told me to. Okay, next question. Why don't you read it? I lost my page.
Okay, this is from Parul Maheshwari
Parul.
via the Sage Community chat.
It's a good name, Maheshwari.
He says, "My pranam to both of you, Prabhus, for the pearls of ancient wisdom you dispense." Oh, thank you.
We're the dispensers of pearls. Thank you.
Okay, my
Good
question.
Good name for a band.
We're the pearl dispensers.
Pearl dispensers. Less catchy.
From Bayonne. My question is around skepticism, reverse in my case, in today's world, and how skeptics view and perceive the ISKCON/Hare Krishna movement. I was born and raised in New Delhi, Bombay, India, in New Delhi and Bombay, India, and I moved to the States in 2014. Okay, so 10, 11 years ago. I've been astonished to see the impact Sanatana Dharma has had in the USA and across
It's amazing,
the
isn't it?
world. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Where
It wasn't like that when we were young.
Not so much. Where I encounter and discover foreigners every day who have 100 times more knowledge about my religion, culture, ancient texts, music, arts, food, etc., than me or any average Indian.
It's
It is
amazing,
a
isn't
shame. He says it is a shame. Yeah. I grew up as a millennial in a privileged modern city environment, and somehow religion was never taken seriously in my family. It was just limited to rituals during festivals without meaning. I have found a connection with Krishna at this stage in my life, and wisdom of the sages was the reason why. Oh, thank you.
Aw.
Then he says the West is in big Maya. He says a lot of
Big Maya.
illusion. Took me 10 years to realize that because I was chasing this Western life since childhood. Okay, that's good context. Now, my question is in two parts. Number one, you might be quite aware of several religious leaders and gurus, especially in India, who have millions of followers and they preach from Bhagavad Gita. Look and sound very enlightened, but sadly are fake. Some are in jail. Okay.
What?
This has led to mistrust among millennials and Gen Z, and it really is sad because there are so many genuine gurus there too. So that's the first question. Oh, the first question in relation to that is how do we navigate these faith-shaking experiences? And then two, living in the USA, the skepticism is reversed. I took my family to ISKCON Miami last week with my kids. When we left, there were discussions like, how come ISKCON always have their locations in these posh locations everywhere in the world. Where's the
Yeah.
funding coming from?
Where's the...
And two,
It doesn't sound like that's skepticism in reverse. That seems like the same old skepticism. Skepticism in reverse would be like blind faith. Like, how can I worship the deity?
well, I guess it's reverse to the skepticism that he's used to.
Okay.
And then two, how come the priests are American? Why is there no
Yeah.
Indian in their senior management? Man, you're in the wrong temple because most of the American temples are like run by Indians.
I
nowadays.
know.
And there's a whole movement like that has an issue with that. Okay, I was shocked with the skepticism. I was shocked that the skepticism had reached to this stage, but I had no answer. Kaustubha and Raghunath Prabhu, you both have oceans of knowledge. Please help with my questions. We will do our best with our little
I don't know if I have an ocean. I have like a pond.
little puddle.
I got a little puddle, perhaps.
Okay. Well, let's hear from your puddle. First one, do you want to deal with one of these questions or both?
Sure, I'll deal with that.
Which one?
So
let's start
how would you frame the first one? What do you do? Well, the first one about these gurus, there is so much to offer in the Vedic teachings, but then you've got these counterfeit. I always like to use this example because I think it's a good example. Just because there's a counterfeit $20 bill doesn't mean there's not a real $20 bill.
Okay.
We live in an all or nothing society. If there's a counterfeit 20, that doesn't mean there's not a real 20 out there. If you've been given lots of counterfeit 20s, that doesn't mean there's a real 20. Just because there's been gurus, teachers. What is a guru? It's a teacher. Just because there's a guru that's done something bad, that doesn't mean every guru is a cult leader. Every guru is manipulative. Every guru is trying to have sex with their disciples. We've taken the word guru. You can't even say the word guru anymore. It's got bad connotations. It means almost like a despot or some maniacal, controlling figure. Guru just means teacher. And if you put it like that, we have to understand our teachers. We have to be careful who our teachers are. That's understandable. And your teachers have to give you something valuable. And here's a big one. Your teachers are embodied. Your teachers have human bodies. And I think it's good for regular devotees to hear this message as well. Your teachers have human bodies and human minds, and they've been tagged by Krishna to touch your heart. So there's some value in that and some respect in that, but they're not God. Don't replace God with your teacher. Now, people may think, oh, were you kidding? You're supposed to worship the teacher because you're getting God from the teacher. But at the same time, you have to have the discernment to see if your teacher goes off the track, you shouldn't lose faith in God. And if anything, you should just be praying for that teacher. Because guess what? Teachers also can fall into illusion. We don't hate them for that. We feel sad for that. Even Lord Brahma can fall into illusion. So there's different responsibilities as a teacher. I'm a teacher. The Kaustubha is a teacher. People will come to us with all their questions, all their problems, all their this, and we'll teach them. That's what we do. And guess what? To the degree that you take this stuff seriously, you'll be a teacher too. People will say, wow, he's changed his life. He's opened my mind. I've shifted my paradigms. My life is better. I want to hear more from them. Everyone listening to this podcast, if you practice this lifestyle, you will become a teacher because people will be attracted to the way you've upgraded your life and they've been inspired by you. So there's responsibilities of a teacher. There's behavior of a teacher. And it's like if I say I want to drive fast on the Autobahn, you know, there's a way to drive fast on the Autobahn. You have to look far ahead. You got to stay in your lane. You can't pass on the right. You got to pass on the left. You can't follow a car too quickly. There's rules for driving fast. There's rules for being a teacher. You know, you can't, anyway, we can get into that. That's the whole things, but there's a responsibility. But people transgress that even in a material way. There's professors who do nefarious thing with their students. The professors are also teachers. So if we're teaching a spiritual science, the bar is really high, but we have to keep some type of integrity with the way we teach. And if we don't, it's humiliating. And that's understandable. We've become now counterfeit. And the same way, as a student, there's a responsibility as a student. And the responsibility is not doubt everything, but at the same time, also accept, not blindly, oh, my teacher is a pure devotee. How about my teacher is a person very sincere on this path, and they're practicing spiritual life. And even if they, because sometimes Prabhupada would use this word pure devotee as anybody following strictly. And in one sense, that is a pure devotee. But there is a nuance of a person who gets to a stage where they can never fall from grace again. We have to understand people fall, and that God doesn't fall. God hasn't let you down. If a person lets you down, don't make the guru God. Make the guru this special person who's given you so much. What do you think, Kaustubha?
Yeah, I think we're almost out of time, so just really briefly.
Sorry about that.
No, that's no problem. This goes in a similar vein as you're saying, and this goes back to the things we were discussing earlier, is that, yeah, this is a dirty world we're living in. There's going to be people that are going to take everything good and they're going to exploit it. So, but it doesn't mean, in our first question, it had to do with like, hey, maybe people are misrepresenting how to apply bhakti. That doesn't mean there's a problem with bhakti. Maybe people are misrepresenting what it means to be a guru, which is a representative of the tradition. Just because there are people that misrepresent it doesn't mean that there aren't people that do represent it well. And it's not a reflection on the tradition or the practice. It's a reflection on that person. Let's just have the discernment to be able to separate the two, So that's important. And then with the second question, why does ISKCON have this isn't difficult to answer this kind of stuff. ISKCON has some of us our places are nice neighborhoods and some aren't. It's just like you got the whole variety. We got little storefronts and shacks that are temples basically, and we've got palaces that are temples. We've got huge opulent temples, and there's really good reasons for that. And we also have places that are just like, just people are just opening up right in their own house or, in the most humble of settings. ISKCON's got it all. And how come the priests are American? Because we're in America. And ideally,
go to Venezuela. They're Venezuelan.
Yeah, you go to Venezuela.
Really weird.
You go to Africa,
Germany,
they're going to be African.
All these priests are German. What's going on? You favor the Germans?
But there certainly are a lot of Indian priests in ISKCON temples. Sometimes the more the question is, how come we have to import priests from India in America? It means that we're not doing our job here well enough, that we're not reaching the local people well enough. So we've got it all. ISKCON is a big, global movement that's got posh places and little closets as temples. It's got Indian priests. It's got black, white, Hispanic, all kinds of priests. We've got it all. So just look around, you'll see it all.
Yeah. And also, when they bought the Mumbai temple, it was in the middle of nowhere. When they got the Vrindavan temple, it was in the middle of nowhere. When they got the Brooklyn temple that you and me got roomed in, that was the total ghetto. And now it's become a very nice neighborhood. Sometimes real estate just changes also.
It does.
Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. Live in Gothenburg. We're going to do a show tomorrow live in Gothenburg as well. Thanks, Sophie Mo.
6 a.m.
Boom.
Sophie.
6 a.m. Sophie. Thanks everybody for joining us late. Hey, if you're late, I just want you to know, if you came in late, we still love you. Okay? Henry, we still love you. Dana K, we still love you. Manish, of course we love you. Don, Kaylee, Prabhu, and Laura Powell. Chief.